We come now to chapter 16. 100 battles, 100 victories. Why do I use that title? It is looking at, in this chapter, on a comprehensive range of competitiveness variables. In other words, not just simply achieving goals, but how do you rate, how do you compare relative to the industry as a measure? Because to win 100 battles, you have to be all-round competitive versus the industry. Now, as I said before, right, this is part 3, there's a difference. We ground it on a particular case study. Here we ground it on the basis that of a very interesting case of Nokia. If you know Nokia, right? Nokia is a once star company, and it comes from Scandinavian. Scandinavian I know pretty well. I was visiting professor at Umeå University, and so I'd like you to look at Nokia and see whether you can work out a comeback plan, so that the company could then, be back again right into the hard industry, interesting and highly competitive industry of the handphone industry, electronic industry.
We are to discuss only a strategy process. You don't have to produce a master plan per se.
What excites me about Nokia really is transformation over the years. Look at the chart, look at the slide. Prior to 1998, Nokia has been good into what you call from rubber, it shifted to forest, from cable, and then to electronics. In other words, it had been a strong in transformational strategy, transforming. Remember concubine to soldiers, and that was Sun Tzu. And it'll be interesting to us, right? Can you work out a transformation strategy, a comeback transformational strategy for Nokia?
Right, no transformation from 1967, and then the proportion of electronics had gone up all the way in 1998.
And you find also that as recent as 2010, Nokia was still a strong presence, still has a strong presence in the electronic market.
As you can see, 2010, Nokia still has a dominant presence in the electronics market.
And back to 2010, and then you find that there's one problem, of course, with Nokia, that is the main market, the main bout of market now is really in Asia, right? China, Japan, Korea, the handphone market. And you find that one of the reasons why Nokia wasn't able to compete with companies like Samsung is because of culture. For example, right, Samsung was first to move into the clamshell innovation for handphone. Why? Because Nokia being European, right, they are more familiar with the chocolate bar, and a chocolate bar, that's why you find most of the handphone, our Nokia handphone look like chocolate bars. And then when there was a demand for this, the emerging demand for this clamshell idea, and Nokia didn't enter that market, was late in entering the market at the beginning. I mean, didn't enter the market right from the beginning.
You'll find the culture still play a dominant role in terms of design of products.
So I'll pause here for a moment, and I will then go back to our research. And as I said to you, right, this chapter is really about a comprehensive list of competitiveness relative to the industry. What I'll do is I'll give an overview here, and then you look and I'll comment on the individual chart in greater detail.
Take note that these 6 facets of strategic planning are critical, important. Setting of financial objectives, the coordination of planning, project selection criteria, forecasting the results, and gap analysis as well as strategy to close the gap.
And you find, firstly, there's very strong evidence that strategic planning process, actually some facets of strategic process are interlinked with wide range of competitiveness in industry. Meaning to say, if you want to achieve corporate competitiveness, then you find that, right, these facets of strategic planning process ought to play a key role, these characteristics in your system, planning system. Now you also find that SWOT analysis, right, is also very important. That in particular, analytical SWOT planning is related to widest range in competitiveness. Again, we identify, right, in terms of structure attributes, that the planning aspect that is most relevant for achieving this wide range of competitiveness is really in terms of planning being more analytical and more SWOT oriented. And this is found from our research to be interrelated to across 6 competitiveness variables.
On a level of detail, you will find that planning meeting regularly, having regular meetings seems to be correlated to all the key competitiveness variables, including market diversification, as well as analytical SWOT planning.
And of course, you'll find that it's very important to orientate senior manager if you want to achieve a wide range of competitiveness relative to industry. So a senior management team that oriented to strategy is truly an asset to have.
Most importantly is the fact that performance appraiser, as well as fostering attention of strategic planning, to be associated with a range of variables that are competitiveness relative to industry.
And of course, you have to really involve and get the manager to participate, the executive to participate. Actually, it's even more important than the CEO being involved, because it's related to wider range of competitiveness relative to industry. Have a look at the chart in detail for the detail.
On a level of detail, executive involvement seems to be important for achieving a range of competitiveness relative to industry. And even more important than CEO involvement, but CEO is also important.
Then there's clear evidence that strategic planning leads to a wide range of competitiveness. Next, there's also evidence to show that when planning is effective in achieving those qualitative goals, not just quantitative but qualitative goals, it also leads to the company achieving stronger presence in the market in terms of being more competitive across a range of variables.
It is clear from here that effective planning is also helpful in helping the company achieve a wide range of relative industry competitiveness.
And finally, being systematic and analytical and achieving that through the planning process as a structural variable, then you find that this is associated with a huge range of organizational benefits. Have a look at the chart for the detail.
You find here that the structural attributes in general are very important, that we have discussed much earlier in the earlier chapters.
And interestingly, that if you achieve these organizational benefits through the planning process, it's also associated with the company being more highly competitive across the range of measures vis-a-vis the industry.
Again, here is clear evidence that from the research how benefits is achieved through strategic planning, organizations also gain in terms of wider competitiveness.
And I've taught Scandinavian students in Singapore, when they come across from Europe to Singapore, on research for strategy. And you find that, all right, doing my research on Scandinavians as a culture, that they actually were the Vikings. The history, the roots go back to the Vikings. The Vikings were actually warrior businessmen. Have a look at the picture. You find that the Viking boat is a very interesting boat structurally. And you investigate and you do a little research about the Viking boat, you find that it's structured in such a way that there's a lot of Sun Tzu ideas embedded in it. It goes for flexibility, and you find that the front and the back is the same. The whole idea is that so that the boat could move in and then move out. It is easily in the shallow waters when the Viking ship goes up the river. It could go into and it could move out. That there's no clear head, there's no clear tail. The tail and head are the same. They are almost symmetrical. And Scandinavian at that time, the Viking will raid a village, take the goods, and then will go to another village to sell it. Right? This is Viking cultures. Interesting, way back. If you do the research on this, and of course I have spent time also physically, but personally in this Denmark, in Copenhagen Business College, lecturing them on marketing, and then I was in University of Umeå, right up north in Sweden. I was then the visiting professor for innovation. Right, so you find that I look at Nokia in a different light. That Nokia is Finnish, I know, but that it comes from that area of the world, that part of Europe, and therefore it would be interesting to see whether we could come up with a comeback plan for Nokia. How Nokia could come back again, given the fact that in the past it has been a company that was good in transformation.